The broken refugees. The stars were cold, and silence filled the endless dark. Once the refugees had a world, a sky and oceans of their own, but now their home was ash and ruin, burned by a war they could not win. Their fleets were broken shells, ships barely holding together, drifting like ghosts through the void. They had begged for help from the mighty empires of the galaxy. They had fallen to their knees in the halls of the Grand Council, pleading for food, for shelter, for even a chance to live. But the galaxy turned its face away. The Zorath Empire had called them weak. The Valen Alliance said they would only bring chaos. The great trade guilds laughed, saying there was no profit in saving the lost. Every voice around the chamber rose in rejection. Not a single hand was raised in mercy. The decision was clear. The refugees were to be cast out, left to die in silence. On their ships, the refugees whispered to each other in fear. Mothers held children who cried with no strength left. Fathers tried to fix machines with hands that shook from hunger. Every day, more of them slipped away into the cold of space. Their numbers shrank and their hope withered like a dying flame. They were unwanted, unworthy, and unloved. At least, that was what the galaxy had said. But then, a new voice spoke. A voice the refugees had not expected. It did not come from an ancient empire nor from a council seat of power. It came from Earth, the small blue world on the edge of the stars. The humans stood and faced the galaxy, their voices steady. "If you will not take them, then we will," they said. "Send them to us, we will give them shelter, we will give them food, we will give them a home." The chamber had laughed. The other empires mocked Earth, calling them foolish children. "Do you think you can carry the weight of a dying race?" they sneered. But the humans did not move, they did not waver. They repeated their words, stronger than before. "Send them to us." On the refugee ships, the message spread like fire. The humans had spoken for them. The humans had chosen them. The broken fleets, cracked and rusting, turned their courses. Slowly, they made their way toward the solar system, toward Earth, toward a world they had never seen. But a world that had opened its doors. Still there was doubt. The refugees whispered among themselves. What if this was a trick? What if humanity only wanted to use them as slaves? What if the galaxy had pushed them into another kind of death? Fear gnawed at their hearts, but hope, fragile and trembling, had been born. It was the first hope they had felt in years. On one ship, an elder sat with the children. She told them of blue skies and warm oceans. She told them of green fields and rain that fell gentle on the ground. The children listened with wide eyes. They asked if Earth would really welcome them. The elder only smiled with tears in her eyes. "It is a world of humans," she whispered, "and humans are strange. But perhaps they are kind." As the fleet crept forward, signals flickered across the void. Other empires watched, their eyes filled with scorn. Some said Earth was naive. Others said Earth was reckless. But a few whispered in secret fear. What if Earth was not weak, but strong enough to do what no one else dared? What if Earth was not foolish, but dangerous in its compassion? The refugees did not know the answers. They only knew the stars seemed less cold, and their ships, broken though they were, now carried them toward something greater than survival. They carried them toward a chance, toward a promise, toward a home. In the silence of the void, the refugees looked at the stars one last time. They were no longer alone. Humanity had chosen them. And for the first time in a long time, they believed they might live. Cliffhanger. Yet, in the distance, shadows moved, silent warships belonging to those who did not want the refugees safe, following their trail toward Earth. Arrival at Earth's gate. The refugee fleet limped into the edge of the solar system. Their ships were weak, scarred and silent, drifting like bones across the dark. Every hull told a story of battle and flight, of worlds lost and homes destroyed. They had made it this far, but they were afraid. Would the humans truly welcome them? Or would this be another lie dressed as hope? At the edge of the system, the refugees expected warships. They thought humanity would test them, search them, or maybe even turn them back. But instead, what greeted them was light. Dozens of human supply carriers streamed forward, their holds filled with food, water, and medicine. Human ships moved in careful formation, guiding the broken fleet with calm voices. "This is Earth Control," a human voice said across the comms, steady and kind. "You are safe now. Follow our signal. We will take you home." Inside the refugee ships, silence followed. Mothers pressed their children close, tears spilling down their cheeks. Fathers dropped the tools from their hands, unable to believe what they were hearing. Some of the elders wept openly, their voices cracking as they repeated the human words. "You are safe now." Other alien empires listened. Their networks carried the transmission across the stars. They mocked the humans again. "They bring disease upon themselves," the Zorath hissed. "The humans are fools to think they can carry such a burden," said the Valen. And yet, deep in their councils there was unease. Humans were not afraid, and that was more dangerous than any weapon. The refugees were guided past Neptune, then Saturn. Their broken ships looked tiny compared to the massive human carriers that escorted them. At every checkpoint, human doctors entered their ships, bringing food and fresh air recyclers. They carried children in their arms, gave them blankets, and whispered words no one else in the galaxy had ever spoken to them. "You are welcome here." Still, fear lived in the refugees' hearts. What if the kindness ended when they reached Earth? What if it was all a trick, some trap to use them as pawns? The leaders of the refugee fleet gathered in the central chamber. They argued in hushed voices, their fear clashing with fragile hope. One of them finally said, "We are too broken to survive alone. If this is a lie, we will die anyway. If it is truth, then we may live." Closer and closer, Earth grew in their viewports. At first, it was just a dot, then a blue sphere glowing against the black. Oceans shimmered, clouds curled across the surface, green land stretched wide. The refugees fell silent, breath stolen by the sight. It was not just a planet, it was life, pure and whole. Children pressed their faces to the glass, whispering as if afraid to disturb the image. "This is home," they murmured, though they had never walked on its soil, but shadows followed them. In the cold dark beyond Pluto, hidden ships moved. Galactic war cruisers cloaked their signatures, watching the path of the refugees. Their orders were simple: do not let them live on Earth. The galaxy had rejected them once, and it would not allow humanity to change that choice. Their engines flared, silent hunters stalking from the edge of the system. Onboard Earth's command stations, humans watched carefully. They knew something was wrong. Strange signals whispered in the dark, too precise to be chance. Admirals exchanged sharp words. "Someone is coming for them," one said, "and if they are coming for them, they are coming for us," replied another. Still, the humans kept their promises. The refugee ships were guided closer until Earth filled their entire view. Blue oceans glittered like jewels, mountains stretched white with snow, forests swayed with wind. The children cried again, but this time it was joy. The elders bowed their heads, whispering thanks. Even the strongest among them let their armor crack, letting hope flood in. Then came the moment of first landing. The refugee ships touched down on a vast plain prepared by humans. Shelters had already been built, food stations ready, medical tents waiting. Humans lined the landing zone, waving as the ships opened. The refugees stepped out slowly, blinking in the strange sunlight. The air was fresh, heavy with the smell of earth and rain. For a heartbeat, no one moved. And then a human doctor stepped forward, holding out his hand. "You are safe now," he said again. A refugee elder reached out, trembling, and touched the hand. It was the first time in years they had felt welcome. Cliffhanger. But far above, hidden among the stars, the shadow warships crept closer, engines burning, preparing to strike before Earth could make the refugees truly safe. Seeds of distrust. The refugee camps stretched wide across the green fields of Earth. For the first time in years, the aliens had food in their stomachs and roofs above their heads. Children laughed as they tasted fruit for the first time. There, hands sticky with sweetness, mothers sat in clean shelters. their eyes no longer haunted only by hunger. Elders walked slowly on soft grass, whispering that this world felt like a dream, but dreams often attract shadows. At first, it was small things. A crate of medicine vanished in the night. A water purifier was found broken, its wires cut. At first, people blamed accidents or clumsy hands, but then more things went missing. Rations disappeared. Storage doors left wide open. Machines damaged. Beyond repair, the refugees began whispering, "Do the humans regret taking us? Are they starving us slowly?" Fear returned to their hearts, sharp and bitter. They had been betrayed before, and now doubt poisoned their fragile hope. Among the humans, whispers rose as well. "They are stealing from us," some muttered. "They are dangerous. They will bring war to our world," others said. Anger grew in the market streets. A human farmer shouted at a refugee boy who picked an apple without asking, "You people will ruin us." The farmer spat. The boy cried, clutching the fruit as if it were his last chance to live. Tension thickened like a storm cloud. Even soldiers who had helped guard the camps began to argue. Some believed the aliens were innocent. Others thought they were liars. Voices grew sharp and fists were close to being raised. The bond between human and refugee trembled. Then came the fire. In the night, a storage depot on the edge of the refugee camp exploded. Flames rose high, black smoke choking the air. Panic spread as refugees ran for safety. Human firefighters rushed in, dragging the wounded out of the blaze. But when the fire was out, the arguments began. Humans accused refugees of sabotage. Refugees accused humans of betrayal. Voices clashed. Like weapons, and trust began to break. In the command tent, Earth's officers met in silence. Reports showed something strange. The fire had started from inside, but the device that caused it was not human. It was alien, advanced, and not from the refugee fleet. A soldier placed the burned remains of the device on the table. "This did not come from them," he said. "Then who?" asked the commander, his voice low. No one answered, but the silence spoke louder than words. That night, Captain Juren, a human guard, caught movement near the camps. He followed the shadows through tall grass until he cornered a figure. It was not human, and it was not refugee. The figure carried sleek equipment, eyes glowing faint blue. Before Joran could call for backup, the figure lunged. The fight was fast and brutal, but Joran drove his knife into the stranger's arm. The figure fled, dropping a small black device in the dirt. Joran picked it up, his heart pounding. It was a transmitter, and it was sending signals to ships hiding in the dark above Earth. The truth was clear now. The sabotage was not born of refugee hands. It was the work of outsiders. Silent enemies who wanted trust between humans and refugees to shatter. Someone wanted them to hate each other. Someone wanted Earth to abandon its promise. The next morning, Joran stood before the Council of Humans and Refugee Leaders. He threw the black device onto the table. "They want us to fight each other," he said, his voice steady. "The galaxy does not forgive what we have done, and they will not stop until these people are destroyed, or until we are." The refugees fell silent, their eyes wide. They realized then that humanity had taken not just a burden, but a war upon their shoulders. For if the galaxy hated the refugees, it now hated Earth as well. The humans exchanged grim looks. The decision they had made was no longer about kindness alone. It was survival, for both peoples. Outside the council tent, the children still played in the grass. They laughed as if the world was whole and safe. But in the skies above, shadow fleets circled like wolves, waiting for the moment to strike, cliffhanger. One human scout ship at the edge of the system sent a desperate message. Dozens of war cruisers were moving toward Earth, their engines burning bright. Humanity had little time before the storm arrived. The hidden enemy. The warning from the scout ship spread through Earth's command like fire. Dozens of hostile war cruisers were moving toward the solar system. The fleet carried the flags of several empires, yet no one admitted to owning them. They were hunters sent in secret, wolves wrapped in silence, and their prey was clear: the refugees and anyone foolish enough to protect them. In the camps, life went on as if nothing had changed. Children still laughed, mothers still cooked, elders still prayed. But above their heads, humanity was making a choice, to fight or to surrender. In the great chamber of Earth's council, leaders gathered with grim faces. Screens showed the approaching ships, their weapons glowing in the dark. One officer spoke, his voice sharp. "If we stand against them, we risk our entire world." Another shook her head. "If we give the refugees up, we risk our soul." Silence followed. The choice was heavy. The galaxy had cast the refugees aside, calling them worthless. But now, Earth stood in their place. Would they prove the galaxy right or stand apart as something new? The refugees themselves offered no answer at first. When they learned of the coming threat, many fell into despair. They had run from death for so long, and now death was coming again. Their leader, a thin man with hollow eyes, stood before the council. "If our presence brings war, we will leave," he said softly. "We will not bring destruction to those who showed us mercy." The human commander slammed his fist onto the table. "No," he said. "Your fight is ours now. And we will not hand you back to the wolves." His words spread across the chamber like fire. And for the first time, the refugees saw not pity in human eyes, but defiance. It was not just kindness. It was resolve. But the enemy was cunning. On the dark edges of the system, spies moved. Again, a human patrol captured another agent near the camps, this one wounded and cornered. Dragged before the council, the spy spat with pride. "You think you can stand against the galaxy? You are children playing with fire, and soon you will burn." They pressed him for answers, and the truth spilled like poison. The empires feared the refugees not because they were weak, but because of what they carried long ago before their world fell. The refugee race had held knowledge, secrets of weapons, energy, and science that could rival the greatest powers. If they survived, they could rise again. If they found protection, they could become strong. The empires had not rejected them out of scorn alone. They had rejected them out of fear. The chamber grew cold at the words. Human leaders looked to the refugees. "Is this true?" they asked. The refugee elder lowered her head. "We once held knowledge too great for our own hands," she admitted. "It brought ruin to our world. We swore never to use it again." Now the humans understood. The galaxy was not trying to protect itself from weakness. It was trying to crush potential strength before it could grow. The refugees were not simply survivors. They were the seed of something the galaxy feared. And by choosing to shelter them, Earth had painted a target on itself. In the silence that followed, one human admiral stood. "If they fear us for giving shelter, then let them fear us more for standing tall. We will not bend," she said, her voice like steel, "and we will not let the galaxy decide who is worthy of life." Preparations began at once. Earth's fleets gathered in orbit, warships gleaming under the sun, carriers loaded with fighters, railgun batteries charged, defense satellites awakened. But they were not alone. The refugees, weak though they were, offered what little they had: old ships, broken weapons, knowledge hidden deep in their minds. Together, they began to prepare for the storm. Above them, the hostile fleet entered the system, dozens of cruisers fanning out like sharks. Their commander sent one message across the void: "Hand over the refugees or face destruction." The humans replied with only one line: "They are home now and you will not take them." Cliffhanger. As the first enemy cruisers approached Mars' orbit, a massive shadow stirred deep beneath. Earth's oceans, an ancient weapon humanity had kept hidden from the galaxy's eyes, now awakening for the first time. Humanity stands guard. The skies above Earth glowed with steel and fire. Human fleets moved into position, lines of carriers and destroyers forming a shield around their world. Their engines hummed, their weapons charged, their crews silent but steady. Every soldier knew the cost, yet none turned away. Because the choice had already been made. If the galaxy wanted the refugees, it would have to go through humanity first. In the refugee camps below, fear returned. Families held each other, listening to the thunder of warships rising into orbit. Children asked if they would die again, if the galaxy's cruelty would follow them to the very end. But humans walked among them, soldiers kneeling to speak softly to the young. "You are safe here," they promised. And though fear still lingered, hope flickered like a fragile flame in our orbit. Commanders studied the enemy fleet. Dozens of cruisers, bigger and older than Earth's warships, glided forward. Their shields glittered, their cannons charged with deadly light. The galaxy had sent wolves to tear Earth apart, yet Earth did not flinch. From the enemy came the demand once more. "Hand over the refugees, and your world will be spared," the humans answered with silence. Then, with one voice, their admiral declared, "If you want them, you will have to take them from our hands." The galaxy laughed. Across the comms, enemy captains mocked Earth's arrogance. "You are children playing with weapons you do not understand," they sneered. But beneath their pride was unease. For humanity had not begged. Humanity had not bowed. Humanity had stood tall, as if daring the galaxy to test their resolve. The battle did not begin at once. For hours, the fleets circled each other, tension growing like a storm. On Earth's surface, the refugees gathered, their leaders watching the skies. Some begged to leave, to save the humans from destruction. But the human commander shook his head. "You are here because you were cast out, but we will not cast you away. Not now. Not ever." Slowly, the refugees began to believe. Their despair shifted into something sharper, something brighter. They had been running for so long, but here perhaps they could stand. Some of their old engineers joined human crews, offering forgotten knowledge to strengthen shields and repair systems. Others offered their own ships, battered though they were, to stand beside human vessels. In orbit, for the first time in years, they were not running. For the first time in years, they were ready to fight. The first shots came without warning. Enemy cruisers near Mars fired beams of light cutting across space, but human ships were ready. Railguns answered, shells streaking like thunderbolts. The clash shook the void, fire blooming in the dark. Humanity fought differently than the galaxy. Expected, they did not march in rigid formations. They did not rely on overwhelming numbers. They struck like predators, swift and cunning. Destroyers broke apart into smaller packs. Weaving through enemy fire, fighters swarmed, vanishing into blind spots, then striking from unexpected angles. The galaxy's proud ships, built for dominance, struggled to counter the chaos. In the camps, the ground shook as orbital weapons fired. Refugees huddled together, listening to the distant thunder of war. But then they saw something new. Humans standing guard around the shelters, weapons ready, refusing to leave their posts. Even as the skies burned, humanity kept its promise. "You are safe here," they had said, and they meant it. High above, the battle raged on. Enemy ships pressed hard, but the human defense did not break. Still, numbers weighed heavy, and Earth's lines began to bend. One refugee ship, old and nearly broken, pushed itself into the fight. Its crew shouted across, "Comes, we will not hide while you fight for us." Their sacrifice gave humanity time, and with that time a shadow stirred from the deep. Beneath Earth's ocean, something vast awoke. Sensors across the system shuddered as a signal pulsed from the depths. The water split, waves rising high as a colossal shape emerged. It was not a ship built in the present age, but a relic from a forgotten war, a weapon humanity had kept hidden, a secret they had sworn never to reveal. But now the time had come. The ancient warship rose from the sea like a giant, water crashing down its sides. Its black hull gleamed with power, its weapons humming with energy no empire had ever seen. Across the comms, human voices whispered one word: Leviathan. The enemy fleets faltered, their pride cracking into fear. They had thought Earth weak, but now they saw something else. A world that had chosen to protect, a world that had teeth. Cliffhanger. The Leviathan's cannons charged, energy burning brighter than the sun. And in that moment, the galaxy realized the battle for Earth would not be simple. It would be a reckoning. The battle for home. The Leviathan rose from the oceans like a titan from legend. Its hull dripped with waves as massive cannons glowed with power. The skies above Earth fell silent for a heartbeat, both friend and foe staring in awe. Humanity had revealed its hidden blade, and the galaxy trembled. Then the silence broke. Enemy cruisers opened fire, beams of light crashing against Earth's defenses. The Leviathan answered. Its cannons roared, thunder rolling across the void, shells of pure energy tearing through enemy shields. One cruiser split apart in a blaze of fire, its wreckage tumbling into Mars's orbit. For the first time, the galaxy realized Earth was not prey. It was predator. Human fleets moved with deadly precision. Destroyers darted between. The wreckage, fighters swarmed like storms of steel. Refugee ships, battered and weak, joined the fight. They were not built for war, but desperation gave them courage. They rammed enemy craft, blocked attacks meant for human carriers. Together, human and refugee stood shoulder to shoulder, and the galaxy's wolves began to bleed, but the battle was not victory, not yet. For every enemy ship destroyed, more pressed in. The sky was fire, a storm of light and steel. Human shields buckled, fighters burned, lives were lost with every minute. The refugees watched from Earth's surface, their hearts heavy. They saw humans fall, bleeding for them, dying for them, and something inside them changed. For years they had been broken. For years they had believed they were worthless. But now they saw a people who fought for them, not for profit, not for power, but for the simple belief that they mattered, and the refugees rose. Their leaders opened hidden vaults, revealing knowledge they had sworn to bury, ancient codes for weapons, forgotten tactics, ways to twist energy into shields and fire. They gave it all to the humans. "Take it," they said. "If you will fight for us, then we will fight with you." On board the Leviathan, human engineers worked with refugee minds. Together they awakened weapons that had never been seen before. Energy lances that bent through space, shields that shifted like water. When the next wave of enemy cruisers charged, they met not just human fire, but the combined fury of two peoples. The void lit with blinding light, ships cracking apart one by one. Still the galaxy would not yield. Their commanders screamed across the comms, "Break Earth, burn it to ash, leave nothing behind." And their fleets pressed harder, desperate to crush this new alliance before it could grow. Earth's skies blazed, the orbit filled with wreckage. Every moment was survival. Every moment was sacrifice. On the ground, the refugees did not hide. They carried the wounded, built new shelters, forged weapons from human steel. Children ran with messages through the camps, their small voices shouting courage. For the first time, they were not refugees. They were defenders. This was their home now, and they would not see it burn. Above, the Leviathan's heart pulsed brighter. Its cannons gathered energy, enough to tear apart entire fleets, but it came at a cost. To unleash such power meant draining reserves, risking the ship itself. The human admiral stood on its bridge. Her voice rang across the comms, steady and fierce. "If we fall, let us fall as guardians, not as slaves." The Leviathan fired. The beam split the void, a white line brighter than stars. Enemy ships evaporated in its path. Their screams cut short. Silence followed, a silence filled with awe and terror. The galaxy had never seen such defiance, but the cost was heavy. The Leviathan shuddered, systems flickering, its core straining against the weight of its own power. It could not fire again so soon, and the enemy still had ships left, moving in like vultures. The battle was not over, it had only reached its sharpest edge. On Earth's surface, the refugees gathered on the plains, looking to the burning skies. One elder whispered, "If we survive this day, then we are no longer outcasts, we are no longer broken, we are home." Cliffhanger. From the enemy fleet, a massive flagship moved forward, larger than any ship in the system, its cannons charging, its intent clear. One final strike to break Earth and bury the refugees forever. A home for all. The enemy flagship moved into Earth's orbit like a shadow that blotted out the stars. It was vast, older than nations, armed with cannons that could burn cities in a single strike. Its hull gleamed with the pride of the galaxy, and its commanders believed this battle would end here. They would erase the refugees, they would crush humanity, and the galaxy would never speak of this defiance again. In the Leviathan's command bridge, alarms screamed. The ancient ship groaned, as engineers fought to keep it alive. The human admiral stood tall, her eyes fixed on the enemy flagship. She knew her ship could not survive another full volley. But retreat was not in her heart. She turned to her crew. "This is our stand," she said. "If we fall, then we fall, as guardians of our home." On Earth's surface, the refugees gathered in silence. They watched the skies burn, knowing their fate hung in the balance. Mothers held their children close, whispering that the humans would not fail. But deep inside, all of them feared the same thing, that mercy always ends, and that soon they would be alone again. Then a refugee elder stepped forward, her voice strong. She raised her hand to the skies. "We cannot hide while they fight for us," she said. She called upon her people, unlocking the knowledge they had sworn never to use. A signal pulsed across the camps, through human comm towers, into the Leviathan itself. Data flooded in, codes, designs, forgotten science. It was the power that had once doomed their world, but now it was given as a gift. "Take it," the elder whispered. "With you, it will not destroy, it will save." Human engineers worked side by side with refugee scientists together. They rewired the Leviathan's failing systems. Together, they forged a new weapon. It was not human. It was not refugee. It was something greater, born from trust, born from unity, born from the belief that together they could be more than the galaxy ever imagined. The enemy flagship charged, its cannons glowing brighter than suns. The Leviathan shook as its core prepared one last strike. The admiral spoke softly into the comms. "To every ship, every fighter, every soldier, this is for all of us." The enemy fired first. Beams of energy cut through the void, racing toward Earth. But before they could strike, the Leviathan unleashed its new weapon. A wave of light swept forward, bending and twisting space itself. The enemy beams shattered, torn apart like glass. And then the wave struck the flagship, its shields cracked, its hull split open, flames spilling into the void. The proud warship of the galaxy broke apart. And with it, the will of the enemy. Fleets collapsed. Panic spread among the remaining cruisers. They turned, fleeing into the dark. The galaxy's wolves had been beaten, not by greater numbers, not by stronger ships, but by something they had never understood. Humanity's defiance, and the refugees' choice to stand with them. When the last enemy ship vanished into the stars, silence filled the system. On Earth's surface, cheers erupted. Children laughed, soldiers wept, refugees fell to their knees. The battle was over. For the first time in years, the refugees were safe. In the great council chamber, the refugee leader bowed before the humans. "You have given us more than food, more than land, more than safety," he said. "You have given us dignity and a future. We would serve you if you ask it." But the human commander shook his head. "Stand beside us, not beneath us," he said. "You are not our servants. You are our family. This is your home now, as much as it is ours." The words spread across the camps, and for the first time the refugees believed they were no longer broken. They were no longer outcasts. They were home. The galaxy watched in silence. Empires whispered in fear. For in one battle, humanity had shown something far greater than weapons. They had shown that compassion could be sharper than steel, and that, when they chose to protect, nothing could break them. On the plains of Earth, children of both species played together. Their laughter rose to the sky, carrying a message the galaxy would never forget. The refugees were no longer alone. They were humanity's own, and together, they would shape a future the galaxy had never imagined. Cliffhanger epilogue. In the far reaches of space, broken fleets of the enemy limped home, their commanders whispering warnings. If humanity can turn the rejected into warriors, if they can make the lost into family, then they are not just dangerous, they are unstoppable.